Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Keon Monroe, and I'm a senior here at UR, and I study environmental studies, geography, and journalism. And I'm going to talk to you tonight about my fellow internship last summer. I worked at the National Geographic Society at Washington, D.C. And so if you don't know about the society, a little background. It's an educational and scientific nonprofit institution. It has 2 TV channels. It publishes magazines, books, and movies. And a main goal of it is to conserve the environment and historical facts of our society. And this summer I worked at the magazine and the communications and public relations department. And as you can tell, this is a very multifaceted institution. There was a heavy online component to my work, and I worked as an editorial intern. And specifically with the magazine, I worked with the letters to the editor, and I would get questions about how does the society engage in whatever story was featured that month, or where's my magazine, or what information does the society have about lions or giraffes, or I got a lot of questions from children, teachers, educators, and just people who are interested about things that the magazine covered. And here is where I worked over the summer. It's the headquarters building. I worked in the building on the left, and there's another one that you can't see in this picture, and it's further to the left. And so for my research project for the fellowship, I looked at the question, how does the growing presence of digital media technologies affect niche journalism, particularly science and environmental journalism? I've always been interested in this idea of how we look at and discuss scientific topics, because they're usually very complicated things to deal with at a policy level. But in a more basic sense, it's also kind of difficult to discuss culture or climate change or population changes in our society. And so that was the scope of my research. And so when I say digital media, I'm talking about basically devices that connect us to the internet and this online information at demand type of technology. These include the iPad, iPhones, smartphones, Google tablets, etc. So this list is like also constantly evolving. In the next 10 years, it's sure to include more things too. And so, if you grew up, reading a newspaper, maybe you shifted to looking at it on your phone or on a tablet. And in the effects of digital media technology, we see a rise of more independent institutions and smaller places around the world that have access to journalism that didn't before. We also see elimination of profits and revenues for traditional systems. And I'm going to show a quick video clip of this.
Dozens of citizen journalists in India's neglected tribal communities recently learned how to produce and share audio news reports for the first time through an innovative cell phone system launched by Knight International Journalism Fellow Shu Chowdhury. Within a month of the launch, users have already logged more than 1,600 calls and 250 comments. Using this new tool, members of India's isolated Adivasi tribal community can easily access reports on important issues such as evictions, police abuse, and rural education, all through their mobile phones. This is especially important because India bans all radio news except for the government's own station. Chowdhury's project allows many illiterate Indians to receive independent audio news for the first time. The new process allows members of the 80 million strong tribal community to share news, even though many have limited access to computers and electricity. Anyone with a cell phone can listen to the reports. Though Gondi is spoken by millions, this is the first news outlet in the Gondi language in any form.
सुनने का मौका, हमें सही गलत के बारे में पता चलता है और हमने इस माध्यम का
Chowdhury says the tribe's strong oral storytelling tradition, combined with the wide use of cell phones in the region, makes this an ideal news sharing platform. ICFJ plans to expand the training to 4 other states in the isolated region where Adivasis speak Gondi, which is on UNESCO's most endangered language list. Chowdhury will also help citizen journalists share reports about tribal issues with local and national media by connecting the cell phone generated reports to a website that focuses on tribal issues. ICFJ is pioneering this breakthrough initiative in partnership with UNICEF, MIT, and Microsoft Research India. Organizers say the system could be replicated in isolated communities around the world.
And so I've witnessed as an intern at National Geographic, a lot of this, the prominence of technology within the society. There was a heavy push to move towards online and tablet versions of the magazine. They had oftentimes put up their iPad next to the story that was featured in the month. There was also an effort to reach younger generations. For example, they were developing Xbox games for toddlers and teenagers. And as I mentioned, the nationalgeographic.com is really big for their photos and allowing people to upload something into the magazine that maybe they couldn't publish in the magazine, onto the website. And also within my particular position, I noticed a reciprocated communication from people who read the magazine. They wanted to know more about whatever the story was. Just as though the society attempts to educate people, they wanted to share things with us. And for my research project, I talked to environmental producers and editors at the society. And so at the beginning of my presentation, I passed around the paper version of the magazines. And hopefully you got a chance to at least flip through or look at what it's like if you haven't picked it up before. But I just want to give a quick example of how the two are different. So here I have a magazine from this month, and it's a diagram showing the global migration of humans from Africa over 70,000 years ago. And so the caption says, once modern humans began their migration out of Africa some 60,000 years ago, they kept going until they had spread to all corners of the earth. How far and how fast they went depended on climate, the pressures of the population, and the invention of boats and other technologies. Less tangible qualities also include speed, imagination, adaptability, and an innate curiosity about what lied over the next hill. And so you get this kind of stagnant diagram and arrows, and it shows you where they came from. But if you look at this diagram on an iPad, you can see the movement more dynamically. I don't know if everybody can see. And so that's just a quick example of some of the differences that you get in digital media technologies. There are plenty of other examples, and I encourage you guys to look at the magazine if you haven't before on the iPad. So just to conclude, digital media technology has brought us kind of more immersive journalism, which is good for smaller niche type of fields like National Geographic, but it also has drowned us in sort of an information overload. There's just so much, and you can only devote yourself to reading so much in a day, right? So I kind of conclude to say that it requires a deeper level of interest and perhaps education at an early stage. So by beginning to understand how we engage with and discuss journalism, we can be more educated and involved about the issues that matter. Thank you.